Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our journey in learning just a little bit more about this ancient language, which is my mother tongue. I hope you can see this frame. Okay, 孤家寡人, we talked about how single guys refer themselves, most likely single guys, because 孤家寡人 talks about this, self-pity mood of referring themselves as if they are orphaned or widowed person. So today we continue with this orphan image. We have 孤苦伶仃. It's a little bit tone from yesterday because 孤家寡人 emphasized the singlehood. Here, 孤苦伶仃, once you have bitter, there are more emotional value attached to this. 孤苦伶仃 is depicting this state of being, feeling very lonely. It's more than just, I'm single, announcing to the world, like, look at me, I'm single, I'm partnered, right? Over here is 孤苦伶仃. It's like even worse than 孤苦, like 孤家寡人. So 孤苦伶仃 have more bitterness and loneliness in this phrase. Just like half of them are like that. Okay, so we come back to 孤 again. We have this child or baby, big-headed circle, child head, and the torso, and upholding hands. Pick me up position. So that's our child, generic child symbol. And then the right side is melon. And there is this imagined interpretation of why melon used to mean it's orphaned child, because melon looks like growing out of nowhere, right, on a vein and hanging on its own without parental, guardians next to it, at least not visually obvious. So 瓜, this plant, this plant image paired with child image means some children without parents. And in ancient times, it's like without dad specifically. But in contemporary Chinese, it gotta be without both parents. Okay, 孤苦. We have the plant symbol. And if you have two of them, that means multiple, right? So this is plant-based. And then we have the mouse symbol and the number 10 somewhere in the middle. It looks like a cross, right? Again, Chinese number 10 has nothing to do with Christianity's crucifixion icon. It came from a different story, context. So roping or knotting, knots on the rope was a thing back then as a recording of events happening, or at least as a counting of the numbers. So when a knot was, I guess a type of knot, was put on a string, that means number 10. So eventually this knotting on the rope, this is the rope, and just use it even longer, make it even more obvious. The horizontal line is pointing toward that knot on the rope. So it's it signifies it's number 10. All right, that's the origin. And 10 mouth. So mouth in Chinese not only mean speaking, and most of them, it means something related to speaking or order giving or commanding somebody to do something. It could also mean individual or head count. So we don't have head count, we have mouth count. So basically we're using a mouth to represent a person unit. We say 一口人, we say 一家人, a home of people. That means a household. And we say how many mouths in your household. 你家几口人, right? In that 人, the unit of measurement, we use mouths. We don't use head. We count mouths. So now we have 10 mouths. 10 mouths together sounds 古 means ancient. And my interpretation is 10 mouths means 10 generations ago, which roughly 250 years or 300 years ago. That's already considered a long lineage. If your family book keep 10 generations back, that's probably in a different dynasty even. So that's considered ancient already. So ancient, this character here means it's something from the past. And then plus this plant symbol, it means this herb was something from the past. And you know, Chinese medicine was a big thing back then. That's how Chinese medicate themselves. So like without, contemporary, I guess before the age of contemporary medicine, which does research and tests and get statistically significant result, and then can say, okay, this is effective on what, and got list of bunch of side effects, right? That's the standard practice of contemporary medicine. So before that time, Chinese medicine, even today, was passed down from generations, and it's sort of like lore, not folklore, but medical lore of things happen in previous generations. So people have a certain symptoms or ailment and treated with certain plants, herbal-based medication in a certain, ratio ingredients, right? And then that works for them. So that's the ancient experience-based or individual random experience-based, and then eventually enough people gather such stories, right? And then people will formulate, oh, this works for that, this works for that. So that's the, I guess, the pre-medical, contemporary industrialized or, science-based medicine discovery process. So this ancient plant, we can imagine that as the kind of herbal medicine. And most of the times, herbal medicine is a mixture of multiple ingredients. And this Chinese medicine store, if you, in your town, you do have a Chinese pharmacy around, and maybe they carry the ancient Chinese medicine. You will see like cubicles, tiny little desks decorated on their wall. And then when they draw, every drawer will have different medicines. So basically, all those are herbs. I mean, some of them may be animal body parts that dried and like a powder form or something like that. And then it's like different ingredients in very accurately measured amount. Mixture of that, boil. So it's a kind of soup of like 10 or more different kinds of herbs together. And you can imagine what taste is that. That's before any, sugar. I guess people do pair. I remember when I was a kid, I was feed on some of those medicine in a liquid form that tastes really bitter. Parents will pair it with sugar to a little bit sugar coating that way. But orphan bitter, it's describing how bitter it is. It's like as if you were an orphan without parents. You are that bitter. Like you don't have parental guidance or resource or support or guardians with you. You are on your own. That's how bitter life was treating you. So that's 孤苦. It's describing how bitter that is. It doesn't necessarily mean you're a real orphan. That's how bitter you are, as if you were an orphan. Okay, 伶仃, 伶, it says lonely here, only because one 伶 paired with 丁, that means altogether both of them are lonely. But 伶, its historical sense was, okay, there's a human figure. You can see human figure on both. I mean, this is I manually created this word. Probably it was a contemporary word that Chinese eventually try to express this concept of being lonely means just you on your own. You don't have a crowd, you don't have a support system, you're just on your own. That's the concept here. And because it used a kind of irrelevant Chinese character, because here this person is an office or a position back then, almost like a music conductor of orchestra, comparable to today's concept. So it's somebody who is directing the coordination of different instruments together. Because, okay, orchestrating in the past. Okay, recently I watched Amidas. Amidas talks about the life of Mozart, right? From the perspective of the competitor or the envy, untalented, but who can understand who can appreciate a true talent or genius. So in that movie, it was depicted like musicians back then need to be backed by money, by some, somebody who has resource. And this money often is somebody who's in power, right? Who can fund such orchestra, such music behavior to kind of, bring glory to themselves. So that's the ultimate, I guess, display of wealth. Like you can fund a group of, musicians to entertain you and your guest. And through that way, you're kind of spreading your glory, basically. So I can see from that movie something similar in Chinese back then. This entertainment form, it was not to the mass, because the mass as an individual cannot afford that form of entertainment. I mean, unlike today, it's like captured on recording or something, you can mass distribute music. But back then, music without a recording is live shows all the time, right? And this performance was funded by money, whoever can afford that. And this Ling is the position of the person who orchestrate a whole group of musicians together to make music for whoever can afford this, right? People in power, people who are in the position to enjoy themselves, to put on a show, live show for themselves. So this is the position. It seems to have nothing to do with loneliness, right? Except that like this is a director or conductor of musicians. But we can sort of imagine like this person could get unfollowed, like could fall out with the rest of the group of musicians somehow, like because I can imagine that's a tough position to be, right? And then eventually become like left alone. And if left alone, this person cannot really perform, because it takes a whole group of musicians work together to produce music. And this music making without a group of people is, loneliness. That's the starting point. Okay, Ding, we have the person sign paired with this Ding sign. And Ding is like up pointing. It looks like an arrow shooting upward, right? Upward pointing symbol. And this upward pointing in a history of this word could mean a grown-up person. So a person who is old enough to stand on their own feet. So definitely it's not a person who is considered a baby anymore. You can see it's a different posture. It's almost like if you view this as an arm, it's almost like it buffed up, right? So indeed, in a history, Ding often used as a male, a grown male, like ready to go to war or ready to be the workforce in a farm. So some productive member of the society, you can use the force, the muscle power from that Ding. We often pair it with Nan Ding to specify, okay, this is a male, and male grown adult. We don't normally pair it with women somehow. Probably women don't have the muscle power over there. But Ling Ding pair together. I mean, Ding basically just a grown-up person, right? And Ling is this music conductor that could be left alone, I guess. But somehow these two pair together. Ling just by the sound of it, it sounds already lonely for me. Probably I'm programmed already. I'm wired to hear the sound and to associate with the state of being lonely. And that paired with 孤苦, it's like, tastes so bitter. It almost like you feel you were orphaned. Okay, so that's 孤苦伶仃. That's the Chinese description, kind of elaborate way to describe it tastes bitter. I feel like you're orphaned, you're abandoned by your parents, and you're all alone as a conductor of your life without a group of musicians to work with you, right? You're all on your own and you're grown up. Like only grown up probably can own that feeling of being alone, because children, probably not so conscious of their state of being or emotional well-being yet, but as a grown-up, you probably feel it more. And here, when I'm searching for 孤苦伶仃, the image pull up because as opposed to advocate the benefit of being alone. So here is a little bit twist of the message. Here we're talking about self-pity, feeling of being alone. It's so much suffering and bitterness attached to it. But here in this image actually is advocating the benefit of being alone. Because yes, as a social person, we are meant to be around people. We are meant to live within this network of our support system, either like blood or non-blood related support system, right? Friends and families. But occasionally staying alone, that could benefit you, because that's when you are forced to face nobody but yourself, right? Okay, so that's a little bit twist at the end of this image versus the description, the text, the verbal sense of what 孤苦伶仃, what this lonely represent. Okay, cash into the currency of thinking by one word a day with Sophie. See you another day.